You know what's interesting? If you mention astrology in certain circles, people will immediately tell you it's nonsense, pseudoscience, a waste of time. They'll cite studies, roll their eyes, maybe even question your intelligence for bringing it up. But here's what they won't tell you. Those same people probably know their zodiac sign. They've read their horoscope at least once. And if you described their sign's traits without naming it first, there's a decent chance they'd nod along. So what's actually happening here? Because this isn't really about whether astrology is real. It's about why millions of intelligent, educated, thoughtful people find meaning in it anyway. That's actually fascinating. Let's reframe this completely. Instead of asking, why do people believe in something that isn't scientifically proven, which honestly just sounds judgmental, let's ask something better. What psychological need does astrology fulfill that nothing else quite does? Because that's the real question. That's where the actual insight lives. Astrology has survived for thousands of years. It's crossed cultures, adapted to new contexts, thrived in the age of information despite having no empirical backing. That's not an accident. That's not mass delusion. That's human psychology doing exactly what it's designed to do. People don't turn to astrology because they're stupid. They turn to it because they're human. Because they're trying to make sense of themselves in a world that rarely offers clear answers about who you are or why you feel the way you feel. And astrology? Astrology offers a framework, a language, a system that says, here's why you are the way you are. And sometimes, that's exactly what someone needs. Here's the thing about being a person. It's confusing. You wake up some days feeling like one version of yourself, and other days feeling like someone completely different. You react to things in ways you don't understand. You have patterns you can't explain. You feel drawn to certain people and repelled by others for reasons that seem almost chemical. And nobody gives you a manual for any of it. So your brain does what it always does. It looks for patterns. It searches for structure. It tries to organize the chaos of being alive into something that makes sense. Because the alternative, that you're just a random collection of genetics, experiences, and neurochemistry stumbling through existence, that's terrifying. Astrology offers an alternative to that terror. It says, you're not random. You're a Virgo, or a Pisces, or a Scorpio rising with a Capricorn moon. You have a chart. You have a blueprint. There's a reason you're anxious or emotional or driven or withdrawn. It's not your fault. It's not a flaw. It's literally written in the stars. And for a brain that desperately needs things to make sense, that's incredibly soothing. Think about the language astrology gives you. Before, you might just feel like you're too much for people. Intense. Overwhelming. You don't know why you care so deeply about things others seem to shrug off. But then someone tells you you're a Scorpio, and suddenly there's a context. There's a framework. You're not broken. You're passionate. You're deep. That's your nature. Or maybe you've always felt scattered, like you can't commit to one thing, like your mind moves too fast for your life to keep up. And then you learn you're a Gemini, and suddenly it's not a problem. It's a trait. It's part of your design. Astrology doesn't just describe you. It validates you. It takes the things you might have been ashamed of or confused by and reframes them as essential parts of who you are. It turns your perceived flaws into features. And that kind of reframing is psychologically powerful, but it goes even deeper than that. Because astrology doesn't just help you understand yourself, it helps you understand other people. Think about how this shows up in relationships. You're fighting with your partner, again, about the same thing you always fight about. They shut down when you want to talk. You need processing, connection, emotional depth, and they just withdraw. You could see that as incompatibility, as failure, as evidence that something's fundamentally wrong, or you could look at their chart and see that they're a Capricorn moon. That emotional reserve isn't rejection, it's how they protect themselves. It's not personal, it's structural. And suddenly you have compassion instead of resentment. You have a framework that allows you to see their behavior as part of a larger pattern, not as an attack on you. Astrology creates distance between behavior and identity. It externalizes the internal. It gives you a language to talk about difficult things without making them about character or worth. That's not delusion. That's emotional intelligence working through symbolism. Here's where people who dismiss astrology get it wrong. They think belief in it means you're gullible or intellectually lazy. But most people who use astrology aren't literal about it. They're symbolic about it. They don't actually think the position of Saturn on the day they were born controls their career trajectory. They know correlation isn't causation. They understand it's not scientifically rigorous. But they also understand that metaphor can be true without being literal. Astrology works the way poetry works, the way myth works. It's not about facts, it's about meaning. When someone says Mercury's in retrograde, they're not making an astronomical claim. They're making a psychological one. They're saying things feel chaotic right now, and having a shared language for that chaos makes it more bearable. It's the same reason people say, I'm having a Monday, even on a Wednesday. The day doesn't matter. The feeling does. Astrology is a tool for making sense of feelings that don't always make sense otherwise. But, and this is important, like any tool, it can be misused. Because here's where astrology stops being helpful and starts being limiting. When it becomes an excuse instead of an insight. When you stop being curious about why you do what you do and just point to your chart. I can't help it, I'm a Sagittarius. Of course I did that, I'm a fire sign. When you use it to avoid responsibility, to explain away behavior that actually needs examination. When you let it define you so completely that you stop growing beyond it. The problem isn't astrology. The problem is rigidity. Any framework, scientific, spiritual, psychological, becomes a cage the moment you stop questioning it. The moment the map becomes more important than the territory. And that's what happens when people treat their birth chart like a prison sentence instead of a starting point. You're not just your sun sign. You're not even just your whole chart. You're a living, changing, complex human being who gets to decide what you do with the raw material you were given. Astrology can help you understand your tendencies, but it shouldn't determine your choices. There's another risk too. Sometimes astrology becomes a way to avoid the harder, messier work of actually understanding yourself. Because reading about your sign is easy, it's prepackaged. It's delivered to you in neat little paragraphs that feel personalized, even though millions of people are reading the same thing. But real self-knowledge? That's harder. That requires sitting with discomfort, examining your patterns, asking why you keep recreating the same dynamics, looking at your childhood, your attachment style, your unprocessed trauma. Astrology can point you toward those questions, but it can't answer them for you. And if you let it become a replacement for that deeper work, you're just trading one form of confusion for another. Here's what I think. Believing in astrology doesn't make you less intelligent. It makes you human. It means you're looking for meaning in a world that often feels meaningless. You're searching for connection in a culture that's increasingly isolated. You're trying to understand yourself in a society that doesn't exactly prioritize self-reflection. And astrology offers a way in, a language, a community of people who are asking the same questions you are. That's not something to mock. That's something to respect. Psychology doesn't ask whether astrology is true. It asks, what does your relationship with astrology reveal about what you need? Maybe you need permission to be complex. Maybe you need a way to talk about your emotions without feeling weak. Maybe you need to believe there's a pattern to things, that your life isn't just random chaos. Maybe you need to feel like you're part of something bigger, like there's a cosmic order you belong to. None of that is wrong. The danger only comes when the system replaces the self. When you stop using astrology as a mirror and start using it as a manual. Because you're not a fixed chart. You're not a set of predetermined traits. You're a person, constantly evolving, constantly choosing. Astrology can help you see yourself more clearly, but only if you don't let it tell you who you have to be. So maybe the question isn't whether you should believe in astrology. Maybe the question is, what are you looking for when you read your horoscope? What need are you trying to meet? What part of yourself are you trying to understand? Because the stars will keep turning whether you track them or not. But what you do with that tracking, that's where your actual power lives. You don't have to defend why you find meaning in it. Just make sure the meaning you find actually serves you. Because astrology can be a beautiful tool for self-reflection, or it can be a comfortable cage. The difference is whether you're using it to see yourself more clearly or to stop looking altogether. If you want more conversations like this, where we actually go beneath the surface, subscribe to the channel. See you next time.